If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description. Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. You are listening to the Columbine Conspiracy Series. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. This is episode 4, Joe Stair and the Trenchcoat Mafia. And we will be examining accounts placing Joe Stair, who graduated the year before, at the school on April 20th. Now, this doesn't mean he was a shooter, of course, but there are just so many witnesses placing him inside and around the school. Quite curious. Also curious, he apparently visited the school quite frequently, even before the 20th. So he's part of these Trenchcoat Mafia members either expelled, transferred, dropped out, or graduated that seem to be constantly visiting the school in the months prior. And were all cited day of, April 20th. Quite curious. The coincidence theorists hallucinate that it's all irrelevant, or they pretend that all these dozens and dozens of sightings don't exist. But we're looking at the actual documents in the Columbine report. Tens of thousands of pages released here. The 11,000 pages referring to eyewitness testimony. And of course, we don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pages not released. All quite curious for something that is as simple as just two guys that were completely unassisted executing this tragic school shooting. And this is, of course, Mindshock, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure, where we will logically examine every aspect of every case without falling for logical fallacies, like the Dunning-Kruger crowd and all of these coincidence theorists out there that just believe these official narratives on the idiot box on blind faith alone, without actually logically examining anything, which is, of course, the basis of actual science, of actually being able to determine what can be verified and what can't be verified. I mean, how often are the idiot box narratives true, just looking at the past 100 years? So again, that doesn't mean there's some kind of vast conspiracy. That just means that certain individuals that were steering the narrative here in the Columbine case, it's just a lot neater if only two guys did it and they killed themselves. It just wraps up nicely in a neat little package. Anybody making trouble and citing any other types of individuals who are not Eric Harris or Dylan Klebold, that just causes too much trouble. So they just tried to gaslight all of these young students who went through this trauma and pretend and they told them they didn't see what they actually saw. Now, maybe they were mistaken, but they were there. And we're not talking about one or two people here. There's over 100 accounts here, and we're going to go over every single one of them because this is Mindshock. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, find it interesting to donate to our PayPal, just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. Make sure you allow your device to have those notifications come through. Or you can just go to youtube.com/Mindshock. Like and share this podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. You can also become a patron, support the channel that way. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. Just make sure you're at least the children's level, English comprehension level. That does not seem to be the case for so many of these Dunning-Kruger goofs and coincidence theorists that just come out of the woodwork to prove. It's like they get a kick out of proving they don't even understand what was presented. Before you even agree, disagree, at least understand what's presented. I guess that's too much to ask for in this day and age, but it does bring quite some entertainment value, so I don't want to completely discourage them, but apparently every time I make that warning for at least a basic English comprehension level and basic understanding of logic and reason, it seems to actually bring even more of the Dunning-Kruger goofs out of the woodwork. But either way, I'll continue to experiment with and without disclaimers. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's move on to Joe Stair, one of the original members of the Trenchcoat Mafia. And we'll look at his demeanor. And also, we'll look at Chris Morris next. We'll look at his demeanor. We'll look at Brian Sargent, Robert Perry, Nate Dykeman, of course, Eric Veek. All of these individuals, there's notably different demeanors in these interviews. I mean, it's really bizarre. Joe Stair is just laughing about the whole thing. It's really, really bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. I don't know what to make of it. Let's listen to this interview.
Bomb experts inside the school tell NBC News the two suspects who died in the attack carried pipe bombs in 2 backpacks and hid other bombs in a car parked outside, returning to the car during the attack to get more bombs. Sources also say the two suspects rigged 8 to 10 homemade grenades to their vests, CO2 cans topped with gunpowder and a match, ignited by striking the match against flint-like material attached to their coats, a system designed to allow them to shoot with one hand and throw grenades with the other simultaneously, something bomb experts say they've never seen before. One of the founders of the group, called the Trenchcoat Mafia, tells NBC News 4 of them have been questioned by police. Joe Stair says none of the other Trenchcoat Mafia knew of the specific plan to attack the school, but did expect some revenge on athletes at Columbine High after 4 years of battles.
We hated each other. We really did. The athletes would threaten us, leave notes in lockers. As they were driving by, they'd throw glass bottles and rocks and things at us. And so their large hatred built up between the two groups.
Stair says Harris and Klebold asked for no help. He says some members of the Trenchcoat Mafia, including himself, did make pipe bombs frequently as, quote, something to do. But he says the two suspects knew enough about planning an attack and making bombs to pull it off alone.
They knew how to make just about every type of explosive that you could make using household products.
This guy just can't help but smile. Is this a normal reaction to a tragedy? I mean, it's really bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. We're going to compare it to other interviews, but it's like he can't help but smile. Now, certain individuals are just always nervous or nervous on camera. Is he one of these types of individuals? I don't know. Did he truly have nothing to do with any of this? And he's just simply happy that it happened because he's, again, a Trenchcoat Mafia member who wanted revenge. He wanted all of this turmoil. He wanted the school to pay. Is this him just reveling in enjoyment over the actions of others who he was friends with, even though they're dead? I mean, it's kind of weird. What would even associate? I mean, I don't know. If he was truly friends with them, wouldn't he at least be sad for them, even if he was happy about, jocks getting killed or the school getting what it deserved in his opinion? Wouldn't he still be sad that his friends are dead? But instead, he can't stop grinning. Or is this type of a duper's delight where he participated and he knows he's getting off scot-free? Was there some kind of immunity granted? And he's just really happy about it because now he can go on camera. He can do all these appearances. This was April 23rd, 1999. This is 3 days later. This guy can't stop smiling. Really, really bizarre. So he has been described tall and gangly, just like Dylan, about 6 feet tall or taller. Again, all these Trenchcoat Mafia members seem to be extremely tall individuals. Could he be confused with Dylan Klebold? Certain individuals did say some guy had a mustache. Now, Joe Stair has these sideburns. Again, we were still going over, and we have to go back to... We were still going over Tony Samaro's testimony regarding the sideburns, because he saw very, very prominent sideburns. Is that a weird thing to be confused about? Because he couldn't remember a lot of other details, but the sideburns jumped out at him. And again, Dylan Klebold clearly has no sideburns. I mean, not even close. Whereas Brooks Brown has sideburns, but he doesn't really have long enough hair. But Joe Stair does fit this description of somebody with sideburns. Very, very curious. Very curious. And let's look more at Joe Stair. There's another post by Star Viego regarding Joe Stair. He posted this July 31st, 2003, or at least this was copied on that date if it was posted earlier. The case against Joe Stair. Joe Stair was one of at least 4 Trenchcoat Mafia members who were detained in the immediate aftermath of Columbine High School. He was interviewed for about 2 hours somewhere, probably not just at the command post, and then driven home at around 3:30 p.m. Was he one of the perpetrators, even if so far no named eyewitnesses say they saw him with a gun? So apparently he was witnessed at the school but without a gun. Now this is a guy who doesn't even go to the school. So why are all these witnesses spotting him? So actually, before we get to the witnesses that spotted Joe Stair, let's look at the 11K report. So this would be Joseph Stair, pages 10,889 to 10,896. This is Denver Police Department, filed by Nick Rogers. April 20th, 1999, approximately 11:50, myself and Detective D. Wyckoff responded to Columbine High School on shots fired. Upon arrival, we were directed to begin a search of the surrounding area of the high school for any possible explosives. After a search of the area, I was then directed to respond to a library west of the scene to debrief witnesses as they came out of the school. I began interviews of kids that had come out of the school, and during the interviews was directed to a young man who was identified as an ex-member of the Trenchcoat Mafia. I began to interview this party. During the interview, he related that he was no longer a member of this group, but did give me an idea of the group mentality. He went on to relate that the active members were known to him as Christopher and Robert, both seniors. I'm assuming he's talking about Chris Morris and Robert Perry here. I was then told that these parties have extensive knowledge in military tactics, as well as tripwires and pipe bombs. Curious that they did not tell him anything about Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. He was told about Christopher and Robert. I immediately contacted the command post and related this information. I then contacted the Jeffco investigators who took this party to be interviewed elsewhere. I then began to coordinate with the other investigators relating any intelligence information to the command center that was obtained from the interviews. And in parentheses, it says Joseph Stair here. Does that mean this was Joseph Stair at Columbine High School? So he was there? I don't know. That's the report from the day. Now here we have a follow-up. This is document 10,892. The date of this report is May 13th, 1999. Title of report, Interview of Joseph Stair, Detective Marcus L. Fontaine. On May 12th, 1999, at approximately 1200 hours, Denver Police Detective Marcus L. Fontaine and Joel Bell interviewed Joseph Stair. The interview took place at this address, Littleton, Colorado. Stair's girlfriend, Laura Bryan, was present part of the time. During the interview, Stair related the following information. Stair stated that on April 20th, 1999, he woke up at approximately 1 o'clock. Stair ate, then played video games at home at approximately 1200 hours, at approximately... It's unclear, so he must have meant 1100 hours. Stair ate, then played video games at home. At approximately 1200 hours, his sister Amanda Stair called home and spoke to his mother, and that is when he first heard of the shootings at Columbine. Stair watched the news for an hour or so, then he and his mother responded to the library near Columbine High School to pick up Amanda. Stair was briefly interviewed by a police officer at the library. That officer took Stair to the command post, where Stair spent another 10 to 15 minutes being interviewed. Amanda went home with her mother while Stair was being interviewed. After the interview, Stair was driven home by a police officer. By the time Stair arrived at his home, it was approximately 3:30. Stair reported to work at 4. Arby's at Littleton Boulevard and Broadway. As far as the Trenchcoat Mafia is concerned, Stair stated that he's one of the founders. Stair stated that he, along with Chris Morris, John Beecham, Eric Dutro, and Corey Friesen, started the group around 1994 or 1995. So this is the earliest timeline for the formation. We went over the other timelines, which were closer to 96. Stair stated that they all shared the same interest in movies, video games, and bowling. So there you have it. Apparently bowling goes back to the very foundation in 94 to 95. Stair stated that he met Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold through Chris Morris approximately 2 years ago. So roughly 97. Stair added that he hung out with Harris and Klebold only occasionally and didn't know them very well outside of school. Though Stair stated that he liked video games and has played Doom, he also stated that he had not played any video games with Harris and Klebold. Stair stated that he played Doom at his grandfather's house. When Stair was asked to give detectives his grandfather's address and telephone number, Stair stated that he didn't know either. Wait, so he goes to his grandfather's house, but he doesn't know where it is? Not even a street name? And he only knew his grandfather's first name, which is Fred. This guy doesn't know his grandfather's last name. Wow, was he high or something? Wow, this puts some serious credibility issues. Not that there weren't any already, but I mean, this Stair is quite a character. Can we trust anything he says? Stair has a computer which he stated was built by Eric Jackson in June of 1998 for Stair's birthday. Stair stated he had never communicated with Harris or Klebold via computer, though they had mentioned to him they had a website. Stair stated that he wasn't interested in Harris and Klebold's website. Stair stated that he talks online to Brian Sargent, John Beecham, and Tad Bowles occasionally. Interesting. So he is connected to Tad Bowles as well. Stair signed a consent for his computer to be searched and provided his password, which is Natasha, and his screen name, which is Durnock. I like how the police just gave his password out. I mean, sure, this is 99, so I mean, maybe there's not a lot of online accounts, but it's possible he used that same password for other things. Not that that's not exactly the most secure password, a random first name, but... Stair stated that the last time he saw Harrison Klebold was around December of 1998, around Columbine High School. Stair stated that they were in Klebold's BMW. He talked with them and smoked a few cigarettes for a while, then left the area. Stair stated that he has not had any contact with either of the two since. And I wonder how many of these Trenchcoat Mafia members are lying about all this information in order to distance themselves. Stair stated that he has no guns and doesn't like them. That's weird because he admitted to the pipe bombs. Stair stated that when he was a sophomore in high school, he developed an interest in bombs. Stair checked out a book from a library and read up on how to make bombs. Wait, which library? The Columbine library? So were there a bunch of bomb-making books in the Columbine High School library? This book taught Stair about napalm B, field-to-air explosives, and Molotov cocktails. Stair stated that he was no longer interested in bombs. Stair stated that he pays his mother $200 per month rent for living in the house and occupying the northeast basement bedroom. Stair signed a consent for Detective Fontaine and Bell to search his bedroom. While searching the bedroom, detectives noticed newspaper articles about a previous murder-suicide involving a former Columbine student killing his stepfather, then killing himself. These articles were on the dresser mirror. Detectives also found a newspaper article about Hitler. These detectives found what appeared to be a gun rack inside of the wall behind the door to the bedroom. There were no guns in it. Joe Stair stated it must have been built by the previous homeowners. I don't know what to make of that. Detectives also found a notepad that had what appeared to be possibly the beginning of plans for a truck heist, which included a short list of names. Stair stated that it was probably written by Nathan Guest, who lived with the Stairs from approximately February to May 1996. So he just left a notepad there for 3 years, a notepad with plans for a truck heist, and then blamed it on the previous resident. Detectives also found a blue folder which contained miscellaneous papers and a photo of Stair and Eric Dutroux. Detectives noticed a dark-colored trench coat hanging on the closet door. Detective Fontaine asked Stair if the detectives could take the trench coat, the blue folder, and the Hitler article, and the notepad. Stair agreed. Detective Fontaine made it clear to Stair that various tests may be performed on the coat. Those items were placed into evidence at Jeffco. Detective Bell came across a 1998 Columbine High School yearbook. Coincidentally, this particular yearbook is not available online. In the book, Detective Bell found several written messages from various students. One message in particular read, Chico's Groove, and then directly under it, Yo Joe, stay different, better than the norm, jocks suck expletive, TCM, later, vodka. Stair also agreed to take a polygraph and gave detectives his work schedule for the coming week. So regarding his polygraph here, forensic polygraph psychophysiological diagnostic techniques were used to determine whether the subject was being truthful or deceptive. The subject was examined May 14th, 1999, approximately 1,357 hours. Standard polygraph techniques were utilized for this evaluation. The subject further stated he wasn't involved in this and had nothing to hide regarding the murders at Columbine High School. In discussing the issues surrounding the murders at Columbine High School, the subject stated the Trenchcoat Mafia was first started by a group of his friends and himself, with the original members being Corey Friesen, Eric Dutrow, John Beecham, and himself. The subject stated that when the group was originally formed, he did not have a black trench coat, but did get one as time went on. The subject described the Trenchcoat Mafia as a support group for the members against other students at school. The subject further stated the organization was developed during his sophomore year. The subject stated that he was a senior when he initially met Eric and Dylan. The subject stated that he sort of became friends with Dylan Klebold, but that Klebold was never a member of the Trenchcoat Mafia. The subject stated that Klebold really never hung out with the primary members of the Trenchcoat Mafia, but mostly hung around with Chris Morris. The subject stated that he first met Eric Harris during his senior year, a short time after he initially met Dylan Klebold. The subject stated that he met Eric Harris, who was in the company of Dylan Klebold at the time. The subject stated that Eric Harris was also not a member of the Trenchcoat Mafia, and in fact hung out less with the members of the Trenchcoat Mafia than what Dylan Klebold did. The subject further stated he did not get to know either of them very well, but would see Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold at lunchtime. The subject stated that he never got to be good friends with either one of them and that he never socialized with them outside the school. The subject stated that the last time he saw Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold was 6 or 7 months ago. The subject stated that they were together and parked in Dylan Klebold's car near Columbine High School. The subject stated that he was walking to work during the time, observed them parked along the street with Chris Morris in the car. The subject stated that he hopped in the car, during which they listened to the stereo, caught up on old times. The subject further stated that he never communicated with either Harris or Klebold by phone or computer. The subject further added he had no close ties with either Harris or Klebold. He keeps repeating that. The subject stated that Harris and Klebold never talked to him about doing anything like they did at Columbine High School. The subject stated that they would say something like, "I'm going to get back at that guy," or "I'm going to kill him," but that this was always said in a joking manner. The subject further stated that they would also say such things as they were going to burn the school to the ground or blow it up. According to the subject, half the students said something like this, with it also being said in a joking manner. And again, let's not forget, Scott Fusilier was a student at Columbine who had produced a video in 1997 with several other students, including a close friend of the suspects. Was the one who made the Get Smart parody where he actually blew up the school in the video. Just curious there, just the coincidence never ends. Then his father's an FBI agent who's in charge of the investigation. I mean, really weird. Next, we'll be getting to Chris Morris and Friesen after we finish with Stair here. The subject stated he was completely shocked when they did this on April 20th. The subject further added that his sister was in the library when the thing began and that he is glad that she is okay. And that's one of the primary pieces of evidence that Stair didn't know. Or perhaps he did know and they gave him the wrong day on purpose because they couldn't trust the Trenchcoat Mafia guys. I don't know, because why would he allow his sister to go to school? I mean, that's one of the points against some of these Trenchcoat Mafia members. I mean, it's awfully convenient that almost none of them happened to be in school that day, or at least not in the immediate area that was being targeted. It's awfully convenient. I mean, I don't know what to make about that, because we're talking a dozen or so individuals here. I mean, I don't know. Then again, John Savage is listed as being a member of the Trenchcoat Mafia, and he was let go to walk free. So that is curious. So the guy that was in the immediate area was allowed to leave. The subject stated April 20th, 1999, he was home in the morning, got up around 11, at which time he played video games until his sister telephoned home. The subject stated that his sister then advised him and other family members of what was taking place at Columbine High School regarding this incident. The subject stated that his sister telephoned their home between 11:30 and 12 and informed them at that time of the armed attack taking place at Columbine. The subject stated that his mother and he watched the event on TV for the next hour, with him adding that his mother was in no condition to drive because of this event upsetting her so much. The subject stated he had no idea who could be doing this while he was watching the event on TV, though they mentioned the fact that members of the Trenchcoat Mafia were possibly involved in the incident. The subject further stated that he was completely shocked when he learned that the primary suspects were Harris and Klebold. The subject stated that neither Harris or Klebold ever talked about guns or making bombs or explosive devices with him. The subject stated that he personally learned how to make a bomb from several books that he obtained from the library, but that he personally never made one. The subject further admitted that he had never fired or even held a gun in his life. The subject also added that he never went with anyone who even practiced shooting guns. The subject stated the last time he was on Columbine High School property was 2 months ago, and that this last time he was in the school building was approximately 9 months ago. And of course, there are many individuals who have stated the conflicting information about that. The subject further added that he does not know who could have helped Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold plan out the incident that took place at Columbine High School. There were no further statements made by the subject during the pre-test portion of the interview. The subject was examined with an Acceton computerized polygraph system, which is periodically calibrated to ensure its accuracy and reliability. The instrument was correctly calibrated and in proper working condition when the examination was conducted. 4 polygraph charts were administered on the subject. Polygraphs 2, 3, and 4 contain following relevant questions. 4, regarding Columbine High School, did you personally participate in planning the armed attack? Answer, no. 6, on April 20th, 99, did you know for sure an armed attack would occur at Columbine High School? Answer, no. I think another question they should have asked is, did you have any idea that that an armed attack could possibly take place, not necessarily on that day? 8, regarding Columbine High School, did you knowingly provide any of the weapons used in the armed attack? Answer, no. The subject's psychophysiological responses to the foregoing relevant questions were indicative of him answering the questions truthfully. So there you go. He passed his polygraph, although since the polygraph was administered a month later, was the fix already in? I mean, again, who knows, depending on how deep of a conspiracy one believes. So let's go to the case against Joe Stair here. Leah Murphy, 3828, in the cafeteria, notices commotion, northwest door. I saw a guy recognized as redacted. He was running. Stair had his blonde hair down. It's past his shoulders. He's about 6 foot tall. Skinny, he is wearing a long black trench coat. I saw nothing in his hands. He was observed a short distance from whatever was going on at the door. My thought was that redacted was involved if there was a fight. Stair named in the cafeteria map, page 3830. Leah also immediately picked him out of a photo lineup. I asked Leah if she was certain that the individual was redacted. Leah said, oh yeah, I'm certain. I saw his face full on. I remember seeing his face completely. She said he stood in place for 15 seconds. I remember him graduating last year. Dylan Klebold didn't graduate in 1998. She remembers him wearing makeup on his face and hand, and because of that, he stood out from other students. Page 3836. Leah recants in her third interview, which occurred October 1999. Why would she recount? I mean, she was so sure. Let's examine the testimony here. And the document number I'm getting here starts on 3827. I don't know how accurate these old-time forms are. Maybe they're a little off. But this is, Leah Murphy is 3827. So if Joe Stair is closer to, let's say, 6 foot 6'1", would she be more likely to say that he's about 6 as opposed to Dylan Klebold, 6'3", maybe looking a little taller in shoes? I mean, I don't know. But Dylan Klebold does not have long hair past his shoulders. He has long-ish wavy hair, but not really long hair past his shoulders like Joe Stair. So let's read her comment here. Now, keep in mind, these reports day of or day after, I mean, things are going to be fresh in their mind. Who knows what happened so many months later? And her testimony here, I mean, she's stating that she got a clear look at his face for 15 consecutive seconds and explicitly remembers his long hair past his shoulders and him graduating last year. So the following was a result of a personal interview conducted by Detective R. Polak. Really Polak. On Tuesday, April 20th, 99, I had come to the cafeteria from math class at about 11:15 a.m. I purchased my food and sat down with my friends, Tasha, Nigaron, Anna Marie, Kelly. I then went to the pop machines by the teacher's lounge. I noticed some commotion at the door. I thought it was a fight or something and walked over that way to get a better look. Outside, by the corner of the building, I saw a guy I recognized as Redacted. He was running, but I couldn't tell where. He was running to or from. Stair had his blonde hair down. So it looks like they forgot to redact. Because if it was Joseph Stair and the first name is long, now it says Stair. Did the person doing Redacted think she was talking about a staircase, and they forgot to redact his name here? Had his blonde hair down, it's past his shoulders. He's about 6 foot tall, skinny. He was wearing a long dark trench coat. I saw him from his waist up. I saw nothing in his hands. So again, does this prove he was a shooter? No. Does this prove he's there at 11:15-ish? Running around, being spotted by a bunch of people? Maybe. He was observed a short distance from whatever was going on at the door. My thoughts were that Redacted was involved if there was a fight. Someone started yelling that somebody was shot, and the janitor yelled for everyone to get down. I got under a table, and Mike Levon, Shannon, Ryan, and Tasha Olson. We stayed there for about 5 minutes. I heard shots while under the table. I saw people running towards the other end of the cafeteria. I got up and ran toward the east end of the room. I grabbed my backpack off the table. I had been with my friends. I ran into the lower auditorium and out the other doors. I went out by the teacher's parking and came home to call my mother. That night, I showed my mother, Colleen, my 1998 yearbook and pointed out Redacted. This same picture was shown to Detective Polak. I also signed a photocopy of the yearbook picture of Redacted. So in her questionnaire, this is the Team 4 interview guideline, minimal questions to be asked. Question 1, did you ever see 2 large duffel bags in the cafeteria? No. Question 2, did you see anyone carrying or in the possession of those duffel bags at a previous time? No. 3, did you see Eric Harris or Dylan Klebold either on Monday or Tuesday? What were they doing? What did they say? Were they with anywhere else? Don't remember seeing them. Don't remember ever seeing them. So a follow-up report here. This is April 30th, 99 for the interview. Leah told me that she assumed a fight was taking place. Upon looking through the windows on the west side of the cafeteria, directly west of tables WW and VV, she saw an individual whom she identified as Redacted. Leah told me that Redacted was standing on or near the sidewalk approximately 10 to 15 feet west of the windows next to tables WW, VV. Leah said, I saw Redacted. I think I saw him because he was away from the crowd outside. I asked Leah what this individual was wearing. Leah said he was wearing his trench coat and he had his hair down. Leah told me the trench coat was black. I asked Leah if she happened to notice anything unusual or any distinguishing marks or features on the trench coat. Leah said that she did not. I asked Leah if she was certain that this individual was Redacted. Leah said, oh yeah, I'm certain. She then said, I saw his face full on. I remember seeing his face completely. Also keep in mind, Dylan Klebold did not have a mustache or sideburns. Joe Stair has a mustache and sideburns and long hair past his shoulders. Leah then said, I remember him graduating last year. I asked Leah if she personally knew Redacted. Leah told me that she did not personally know him, but she remembered him from last year. Leah said that on certain occasions she remembered him wearing makeup on his face and hands, and because of that, he stood out from other students. So she had seen him in the past frequently enough to know that. I asked Leah what this individual was doing when she saw him. Leah said, I remember him standing. I thought he had just been involved in a fight. Leah said that she did not remember him holding anything in his hands. I remember him running, starting to run. I asked Leah if she remembered in what direction this individual ran. Leah told me that she did not remember the direction. I asked Leah if she specifically remembered this individual actually running. Leah said he was either walking really fast or was running. It was not just a stroll or regular walk. Leah told me that after she recognized Redacted, he stood in place for approximately 15 seconds, whereupon she heard someone from the crowd yell, "Get down." Leah said she does not remember specifically who yelled this, but thinks it may have been a custodian who she remembers standing by the door among the crowd of students. Leah describes the custodian as a white male, upper 30s to mid 40s. And then at the end of the interview here, Leah told me that no time while she was inside the cafeteria or later while exiting the school did she ever see anyone with a gun or anyone doing any shooting. Leah told me she did not see Eric Harris or Dylan Klebold at any time. Leah told me upon entering the cafeteria and up to the point she left the cafeteria, she did not recall any duffel bags or anything else she might consider suspicious or out of the ordinary. Leah told me that to her knowledge, up to the time when she observed Redacted standing outside and the commotion that ensued thereafter, there had been no unusual commotion taking place inside the cafeteria. Prior to concluding the interview, I presented Leah with a photo lineup to see if she could identify the individual who she had seen outside the cafeteria. Leah read and signed the photographic lineup admonition at 12:37 p.m. Leah then viewed the photo lineup showing Redacted in position number 3. Leah immediately pointed to photo number 3 and said, "That's him." Leah then signed and dated the photo lineup from photo lineup form at 12:40 p.m., marking positive identification. And photo number 3. Said photo lineup was witnessed and signed by Leah's mother, Colleen Murphy, and myself. Leah then dated and initialed photograph number 3, 12:40 p.m. The photo lineup and associated forms were then collected by me. In addition, I collected the cafeteria map in which Leah indicated the direction she took in order to exit the cafeteria and school. The interview was concluded at about 12:50 p.m. So it seems a lot of these damage control interviews occurred after the facts many months later. October 27th, 99. We have here Jeffco reporting officer Deputy Steve Luciano. The purpose of the re-interview was to clarify Murphy's observations during the April 20th shootings. In the April 30th, 99 interview, Murphy stated she was certain she saw Redacted wearing a trench coat and standing near the sidewalk approximately 10 to 15 feet west of the cafeteria windows when the shooting started. Okay, so just skipping through here. Murphy stated she saw Redacted at school several times during her freshman year, enough times to recognize him. Murphy stated she does not ever recall seeing Dylan Klebold at school. I explained to Murphy that Redacted had been interviewed by task force investigators and he was submitted to and passed a polygraph test. I further advised Murphy that Redacted has an alibi which places him at home at the time of the shootings. His mom is his alibi. That's a good one. Okay, or his girlfriend. I then showed Murphy a series of 4 photographs taken from the video camera in the cafeteria, and these are of Dylan Klebold. After looking at the photos, Murphy agreed that the person she saw in a trench coat standing at the bottom of the cement stairs certainly could have been Dylan Klebold and not Redacted. So they're basically just continuing to talk to her, making it clear that if she doesn't admit that it's Dylan Klebold, there's just going to be endless ongoing interviews. I mean, what's going on here? Under this, we also don't really know the context or the tone of this interview, but what could she deduce? Clearly there's pressure here for her to just admit it's Dylan Klebold. I mean, look at the language here. Without going into specific details, I explained to Murphy and her mother that the investigation into the shootings had been extremely thorough, and at this point, task force investigators can confidently conclude, based on the evidence, that Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold acted alone. Now, even though she didn't even see a shooter, she didn't even see a gun in his hand, she just positively identified a guy she clearly knew. Now, she did not know Dylan, that's fine, but she clearly knew this guy. She had seen him the previous year. She had seen his super long hair and his not incredible tall size of 6'3" plus in shoes or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. The interview was concluded with Murphy and her mother understanding and feeling comfortable with my explanation. Even though this investigator was not there, does not know who that individual was, and yet they're telling her what she saw. Additionally, Murphy understood that the person she initially thought was redacted was in fact Dylan Klebold. Now, how much did Dylan Klebold run around without his gun? And of course, his hair magically morphed. I mean, this is all just crazy. The mustache disappeared, the sideburns disappeared, and he turned into Dylan Klebold. It's just weird. But for all the coincidence theorists out there, even if there's no formal conspiracy here, let's say the investigator fully believes what they're saying, but they're still putting pressure on a student that was actually there and witnessed firsthand. So what would you put more stock into? I mean, how accurate is something going to be many, many, many months later when she clearly identified positively, not like some of these other sightings, which were kind of like they couldn't really tell, they thought it looked like so-and-so. But let's continue on here. Christine Mikesell, 5748. Mrs. Mikesell said that after the shooting, several students reported to her that they had seen Joe Stair in the building. She said that someone said they had seen Stair in the science area or by the library. So now here's Christine Mikesell corroborating the testimony from multiple students. Now let's look at all of these reports here. But first, let's look at Mikesell, 5748. The document's actually 5750. Page 3 of the interview with Christine Mikesell. Mrs. Mikesell said that after the shooting, several students reported to her that they had seen Joe Stair in the building. Mrs. Mikesell said that Joe Stair is a former student that graduated, she thought, last year. She said that someone said they had seen Stair in the science area or by the library. And then a whole bunch of redacteds. Like a whole sentence. Mrs. Mikesell said that one of the students was Encinias. However, she could not recall the names of the other students, though she said she called for someone else. She called or someone else called the sheriff's department to report this, that Joe Stair was there. Mrs. Mikesell said that Lindsay White, Susan White's daughter, had said that she had seen Joe Stair in a trench coat in the building this year. Mrs. Mikesell was clear that it was sometimes this year, not on April 20th, 99. So within the relatively soon, within the previous months, this guy has been on the high school campus. So he visits the school regularly. So it's not like, I mean, these students that are reporting this guy, they clearly have seen him before. They're not reporting it for no reason. And just to clarify, the gaslighting of poor Leah Murphy, who's being told she didn't saw what she positively stated she saw, which was Joe Stair. But now let's look at these other reports here. Alicia and Sinas saw Joe Stair in the cafeteria prior to the shooting. And that matches, of course, what Leah Murphy said. So we're getting a lot of corroborated reports here. So the page listed here is 1984. Let's see if that's true. Actually, this is testimony regarding what Alicia Encinas said. Megan Kellogg, rather. Megan also related that her friend Alicia Encinas told her she, Alicia, saw Joe Stair in the cafeteria prior to the shooting. Megan stated she did not see Joe Stair. She also heard someone yelling, "I'm going to kill you all," as she was hiding. Okay, so apparently she never saw the suspects. She knows them from seeing them in school halls during passing from class to class. She felt the explosion vibrations on the library wall, side in between gunshots. She heard the fire alarm before she heard any gunshots. Interesting. How curious is that? Did someone pull the fire alarm in an attempt to get as many people out of the building as possible before the shooting? Curious. So Megan is relating that her friend Alicia Encinas told her she saw Joe Stair prior to the shooting. So let's examine that. So 2943 is listed here. Her testimonies from 2938 to 2947. And so 29:43 here. Alicia was informed that someone thought she had stated seeing Joe Stair in the cafeteria prior to the shooting at Columbine High School. Alicia stated she didn't see Redacted, but heard someone during the shooting state, Redacted, where are you? I got 3 of them. Supposedly that's Joe Stair, so I don't know if this is supposed to be she heard Joe, where are you? I got 3 of them. The shooter then laughed. Alicia stated she heard this from the green room where she was hiding with others, and the sound of the voice came from the common area going toward the library from the cafeteria. She stated she did not recognize the voice. Curious, so someone's screaming, Joe, I got 3 of them, and then laughing. Joe, where are you? I got 3 of them. She also heard the gunman saying, you're all going to die, you're all going to die. Then she heard laughter. So she did see somebody. She also said Dorian Salazar was timing the whole thing. It went from 11:25 a.m. until rescued by SWAT at 2:45 or 3 p.m. So there were kids using either wristwatches or whatever watches that were specifically looking at the clock. So that's also interesting to note. Alicia was asked to describe the gunman. She stated he was a white male, 6'2", dark brown hair, shoulder length, with a black hat on. The bill of the hat was in the front, which is curious. That is curious as well, because everybody wears their hats backwards. He was wearing a black trench coat and had on dark clothing, holding a gun, black, with 2 hands and firing it rapidly. She stated she saw the gunman near the double doors from the west side before the doors into the library. Alicia reiterated that she did not see Redacted. She stated she did not tell anyone she saw Redacted. Alicia stated she knows Redacted, but doesn't know Redacted, a different Redacted. These are a different length name. So I don't know if that's her denying that she saw Joe Stair, and others said she did see Joe Stair. Alicia stated she recalled telling students in the greenhouse that the shooters were from the Trenchcoat Mafia. So maybe someone thought she meant Joe Stair, but apparently she heard people say, Joe, where are you? I got 3 of them. So in the follow-up interview here, November 3rd, re-interviewed to clarify these observations. So in the April 20... So she first interviewed April 20th. She reported seeing 3 people with guns coming into the cafeteria. Encinius described the 2 gunmen as, one, a white male with long brown hair and a trench coat. He is the one who started shooting at her and the teacher using what she described as a long gun. And number 2, whom she was unable to describe, and he was observed doing nothing. Encinius stated suspect number 2 did not have a trench coat on. Curious. Okay. She was eating her lunch, approximately 11:20, cafeteria. She stated student came into the cafeteria and yelling, someone just got shot. Someone just shot someone. She stated everyone started screaming, and she saw 3 people with guns coming into the cafeteria. Miss Encinius recognized one of the gunmen had a long black coat, and she did not recognize him. She stated the other 2 shooters were a current student and a student that had graduated last year. She did not know their names. Interesting. Joe Stair happened to graduate last year. This is an interesting report. She stated the gunmen were walking around the cafeteria and the stairway. She heard one of them say, Redacted, where are you? I got 3 of them. Supposedly that is Joe. She stated they were very calm. All right, so let's go back to her follow-up interview here. The purpose of the interview was to clarify, or it's very curious. Okay, so she was first interviewed April 20th. She reported seeing 3 people with guns coming into the cafeteria. Then the 26th, she reported 2 gunmen coming into the west side doors as she and a teacher, now known to be Mr. Sanders, were running down the hallway where the library is located. So what changed between the 20th and the 26th? It seems like a lot of people reported multiple shooters, and then were they simply corrected, in quotations, by investigators, and they didn't question the correction because they figured the police investigators that looked at the security footage, they knew better than them even though they were there, and they just assumed they were wrong. And they never truly objectively thought about it. Because when people in authority tell innocent teenagers things, the innocent teenagers, most of the time, they're just gonna acquiesce. Not that they necessarily believe there's a conspiracy, they just believe that the people in authority wouldn't be mistaken, so then they must be mistaken. And coincidence theorists, of course, use that as evidence. So as I began my interview with Alicia, I asked her if she still believed she saw 3 people with guns coming into the cafeteria. Alicia told me no, that she never saw anyone coming into the cafeteria with guns. So not 3 people, but 0 people. I then showed her the report by Agent Means and pointed out the part where it states she saw 3 people with guns. Alicia told me that part of the report is not accurate, and she doesn't recall making that statement. You know what else I don't think has been done? All of these interviews and re-interviews, they should have played audio. I mean, I know it's traumatic and it's terrible, but to get accurate information, they should have played audio from different types of guns. Full auto, semi-auto, the specific guns known to have been used by Eric and Klebold, and other types of guns, just to see if what they said, if they noticed the patterns, the sounds, the rate of fire was different from the official narrative. It would just be curious. Alicia told me she is still confused about who the gunman was. Okay, so we're now on November 3rd, 1999 for the re-interview. So she's still confused November 3rd. What does that mean? Does that mean she knows she saw someone different than what's being reported? Because why else would she be confused? I asked Alicia if she knew Dylan Klebold. She stated no. I asked her if she had seen Klebold at school. Alicia told me she doesn't recall ever seeing Klebold at school. So she recalls seeing this guy that graduated last year, but not Klebold. Curious. I then showed Alicia a series of 4 photographs taken from the video camera in the cafeteria. After viewing that show, Dylan Klebold, after viewing the photos, Alicia agreed that the person she saw shooting was Dylan Klebold. Alicia still had some concern because she thought the person she saw had long black hair. So she's still not bending to the will of the re-education of the witnesses. I explained to Alicia that when she saw Dylan, he still had his trench coat on. Additionally, Klebold was wearing a black baseball cap backwards. I mean, but what about all these witnesses saying it was forwards? I further explained that the black bill of the baseball cap and the black collar of the trench coat could have certainly given the appearance of black hair, especially given the fact that Alicia looked at the gunman for only a few seconds before turning around to run in the opposite direction. Alicia agreed with the explanation. The interview was concluded with Alicia and her mother having no concerns in reference to an additional gunman. Of course they don't. They were told not to. Now again, that doesn't mean the investigators in on any conspiracy. The investigator could have been completely honest here. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm saying that her intuition clearly stated here she still had some concern because she thought the person she saw had long black hair. Somebody with short hair sticking out the sides of their hat does not look like they have long hair running down their back. So that doesn't make any sense, and it's curious that it's still stated here that Alicia still had some concern. She didn't buy the narrative immediately. And then, obviously, after being constantly told what she saw, I mean, what choice does she have other than to bend to the will, especially if the investigator is making it known through either body language or subtext that they're not leaving until she acquiesces. And they've done this with all these other witnesses. I mean, it's weird. We'll actually go over it because not all of them bent to the will here. Not all of them were successfully gaslit, and some of them might just have went along to get along. They don't want trouble. This was the most traumatic thing ever. They basically just want it to go away at this point. What are they going to do? Go against FBI and investigators? I mean, it's weird. They're not going to want to cause trouble. But a few stuck to their original story, and we'll be getting into them later. A lot of damning evidence. And it's also curious that, and Alicia here said one of them had graduated last year, so clearly she had recognized Stair. Stair has the longer hair, and Stair did graduate last year. All right, let's continue. Courtney Heravel, 1927. She also heard in the green room, in the science hall, Joe, I have 3 of them in here. Heravel is a sophomore at Columbine High School. Her 5th period class is biology with Miss Williams. The class is held in Science Room 11, April 20th, 99. Heravel was in her 5th period class with Miss Williams. They were approximately 10 minutes into class when they heard students running in the hallway outside the classroom. 3 or 4 students ran into the biology classroom screaming. This group included Elisa Encinas. Right after the students entered the classroom, a male teacher, possibly Mr. Kraft or Mr. Friesen, Corey Friesman's father, is that him? Stepped into the classroom and told everyone to get down. The teacher then went back out into the hallway. All the students got down underneath their tables. The students then began to move to the back of the classroom toward a door that leads to the green room. As Heravel was moving toward the green room, she heard 3 gunshots coming from outside in the hallway. After hearing the gunshots, the students all moved into the green room. At one point, she heard who she thought was a gunman say, redacted, I have 3 of them in here. She's very positive that she heard the word, I'm guessing it's Joe, and not the word yo. So the coincidence theorist attempting to explain away multiple students clearly hearing Joe, I have 3 of them in here. Apparently there's some kind of an attempt. This was May 7th, 99. There was an attempt to get everyone to believe they misheard in order to place a Joe not there and maintain the narrative. She's not bending to their will. She's very positive she heard the word Joe and not the word yo. Now this Joe is redacted here. But I'm assuming in context because there's this student that graduated last year and other individuals saying that people are seeing Joe Stair as reported clearly to many other individuals, so everything seems to add up that it is Joe. Heravel was not able to put a time to hearing that statement. Heravel never saw any gunmen while she was in her classroom or the green room. No additional students came into the green room after Miss Williams closed the door. The group was rescued at approximately 3:30 or 4 p.m. by a SWAT team. And that's a pretty large margin of error, 3:30 or 4 p.m., especially if students and or teachers are watching the clocks. Heravel did not know Eric Harris or Dylan Klebold. She did know Robin Anderson. Anderson sat in front of her in accounting class during the fall semester. Another student named Pete, last name unknown, possibly a senior, was also in the classroom and talked German to Anderson. Pete and Anderson may have dated. Ashley McKenna, 3525, supposedly heard, "Come on, Joey," from the science hallway. Now let's see if that's related to the actual shooters, and does anybody call Joe Stair Joey? Because if not, then that's not really great evidence. And McKenna is not 3525, she's 2042 to 2047, but let's see what she says. Looks like she wrote this pretty quickly. Today at Columbine High School in Miss Williams' 5th hour biology, a lot of people started running up the stairs screaming. Then I heard gunshots. Then I ran into a little greenhouse room next to our room. We heard gunshots a lot after that. One guy screamed that he wanted to die. I never saw anybody. Then the SWAT guys came and took us all out. I wasn't hurt. This is dated 3:10 p.m., this statement, on April 20th, 99. On 5/25/99 in this interview, approximately 5 to 10 minutes after getting into the greenhouse room, McKenna heard boy voices in the main hallway. One of the boy voices yelled he wanted to die. She was hearing lots of yelling by the boy voices. The statement may have been, "I want to die today." Approximately 5 to 10 minutes later, she heard one of the same boy voices yelling redacted. The statement with the name redacted was made referencing him to come to them or to go. The next thing she heard was that she thought were faint gunshots coming from an area near the front main office. The individuals did go by the door to the greenhouse room several times. McKenna could tell by the noises they were making. She could not recall the specific noises. She did hear them run up and down the stairs to the cafeteria 2 or 3 times. Approximately 30 minutes later, she heard an adult male voice state, "Put your weapon down." The voice was faint and was not outside the green room in the hallway. McKenna could not give a direction for the comment. Curious. Why would Eric or Dylan tell each other to put your weapon down? I don't know, that's weird. But these are not boy voices, so this is an adult male voice, so clearly different than the boy voices she reported earlier. The gunshots then stopped for approximately 1 hour. She then heard what she thought were more gunshots and the same boy voices outside in the hallway. She could hear running and yelling in the hallway. McKenna thought the voices and sounds she was hearing may also have been the police SWAT officers moving in the school. At approximately 2:45 p.m., SWAT officers entered the greenhouse room and began letting them out through the door in the hallway. Okay. So I don't know why some people are saying she heard Joey. I'm guessing this is in combination with other statements where Joey was not redacted. Most of this has been pretty accurate thus far, so. Dorian Salazar, apparently he did hear one suspect call the other one Joe while Dorian was hiding in a science classroom. And this is 2156, Dorian Salazar. At 11:25, we heard people screaming and running up the stairs. And a few people came in the classroom. We then ran to a back storage room and hid in there. For about 2 hours, we heard gunshots and explosions. We heard the police shooting and talking. One said the school is on fire. Another said, "Here, redacted, where are you?" And another said, "I want to die today." After about 30 minutes of silence, there were more gunshots. Then for about an hour of silence, then the SWAT team came in and evacuated us with Mrs. Williams. Apparently this redacted is also Joe, again matching up with other statements. Again, by themselves, like if it's only a handful of reports, but putting together these dozens and dozens of reports, over 100 reports contrary to the official narrative, that's hard to write off. I mean, how devout of a coincidence theorist and authority-worshipping cultist must one be to completely write off these countless anomalies? Now, that doesn't mean Joe is one of the shooters. That simply means he could have been there. Maybe he was just hanging out while they were shooting. Maybe there's another group of people, shooters or not shooters, again, who knows, that are also just running around. Aaron Christie DeHoff also heard, "Hey, 3 letters redacted." Says he is the third suspect, so most likely Joe. This is listed here as 17445. Let's see if that's accurate. So this statement is JC-001-017445. References suspect / third shooter. Disposition: female student is Erin Christie DeHoff. DeHoff, interviewed with her parents present, said that she heard redacted name in the media and that he was a suspect. DeHoff was hiding in a science classroom during the shooting and heard the gunman but did not see them. FD 302 attached, heard someone say, "Hey, redacted," 3 letters. Possibly Joe. Curious. Very, very curious. Now let's move on to Pat McDuffy. Now this is a curious one, because Patrick McDuffy is a Trenchcoat Mafia member himself. And he ID'd Joe Stair. That's curious. So just a quick breakdown on Patrick McDuffy. Former Columbine High School student, he completed his graduation requirements December 1998, so the previous year. Patrick had German class with Eric Harris the last semester of 98 and composition with Dylan Klebold. He stated he started associating with Eric and Dylan in the spring of 97. Patrick stated that Joe Stair was the first person to wear a duster to school. Stair wore the duster because it was warm and dry while smoking outside the school. Other members of the group began wearing the oiled leather dusters and soon obtained the label Trenchcoat Mafia. He stated the group's common interests were as follows: Rammstein, KMFDM as far as music, movies, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Replacement Killers, computers, strategic games, Command and Conquer, Dune, and Warcraft. McDuffy communicated with the group through America Online using the name Romeo. So apparently, McDuffy stated that he was in the chess club with Dylan, and he became part of the Trenchcoat Mafia in May 1997. McDuffy stated that Eric and Dylan smoked marijuana but used no other substances. He said that Eric and Dylan could have manufactured the bombs in 3 days. That's kind of random. Sometimes they were Soviet lapel pins. McDuffy said that Eric and Dylan were both very smart and capable of that destruction. They did some playful videotaping using mannequins. The movie was like Rambo, and it was filmed at their homes and edited at school. He also stated that Dylan and Eric had a computer site listing the things they didn't like. McDuffy stated he heard that Dylan had an ASP baton, a handgun, a knife, and built bombs like pipe bombs and cocktail bombs. He indicated that Eric had many different types of guns and made the statements, "I will kill jocks and blow up the school." However, this statement was made during bowling throughout the year when everyone joked about doing the same thing. So let's drop some mind shocks, because McDuffy said something very, very curious. So this is document JC001-010786. And this interview is dated April 20th, 1999. So day of, this is McDuffy's testimony. Let's see what we make of this. I hope everybody's sitting down because this is quite mind-shocking. So the investigator here, Warren, spoke to McDuffy, who stated that he had been a member of a group of students that hung around together. McDuffy stated that he is not part of the group anymore due to some of the kids wanting to do more violent acts. McDuffy gave this account of each of the members' involvements in the account. Redacted, very possibly referring to Eric Dutroux here. Helped with planning the attack. Uses drugs like meth. Drives a white Toyota car or minivan. So he named 6 individuals. Oh, wait, a lot more than 6. Wow. And I've seen some names here that have never been named before. Most of them are redacted. So we have the first one, redacted, which I just read. The second one, Klebold, was at the school, has handgun, baton, knife, and built bombs like pipe bombs and cocktail bombs. The third individual, redacted, most likely referring to Joe Stair here, was at the school with a gun by the library outside the stairs, helped with planning the attack, drinks alcohol and smokes marijuana, has many different types of guns, sweep guns, and shotguns. And this is a short name here that was redacted. Slightly longer named redacted, most likely referring to Chuck Phillips. Helped build bombs and tested them at his house. Drives a 94 blue Honda Accord. Smokes marijuana most of the time. That was the fourth individual. The fifth individual, most likely referring to John Beecham here. Helped build bombs and tested them with Phillips. Was part of the planning of the attack. The sixth individual. Now, what was redacted here, Eric, last name unknown, this is possibly Eric Jackson. Of course, for those that don't know, Eric Jackson was also in the vehicle with Dylan Klebold on the Morning Run video on the April 19th. Part redacted, and looks like it's in quotation, so it looks like maybe it's a nickname. Part of planning the attack. Stores most of the weapons. He transported most of the stuff to the school for the attack. Was at the school outside during the attack. Drives a white Bronco parked in the lot. The seventh individual, Harris, was inside of the school during the attack, helped plan the attack, and had many different types of guns, had said, "I will kill jocks and blow up the school." The eighth individual, redacted, very possibly Chris Morris, was inside of school during the attack, helped plan the attack, wrote letters, and made videos about violence. The ninth individual, redacted, very possibly Eric Alt, was part of planning for the attack, likes guns and violence movies. The 10th individual, redacted, very possible Robert Perry, was at the school with an automatic gun downstairs by a door, shooting outside, helped with the planning of the attack. The 11th individual. Now, the 11th and the 12th, it looks like he's just stating witnesses here. Their names are not redacted. Hooker ran past redacted and saw him shooting his gun. And Rush ran past redacted and saw him shooting his gun. McDuffy stated that up to 4 students at Chatfield Senior High are also part of this group. McDuffy stated he didn't know their names, but stated one is a big black male, 6'2", with short black curly hair. The other is short, 5'6", white male with blonde hair, skinny with a scar, 3 to 4 inches long on the right side of his face. McDuffy stated that up to 4 students at Bear Creek Senior High are part of the group. He was at a meeting and met John, who has red hair, wears military boots with black pants, and a chain with a dragon on it. So he named up to 4 individuals from other schools, 8 individuals between 2 other schools that are also part of the group. McDuffy stated that the group speaks in German and reads books about World War II and watches 6 Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. McDuffy stated that the group uses all types of weapons and play war games and use bombs of all types. McDuffy stated that most of the group works at Black Jack Pizza on Pierce Street, and they meet in the parking lot most of the time. McDuffy stated most of the bombs were made and tested at Redacted's house and up in the mountains. This redacted length doesn't match Eric or Dylan's name. And Eric or Dylan's name probably wouldn't have been redacted since they weren't earlier. So this is curious. So is this report dated April 20th, 1999, the smoking gun? Is McDuffy revealing the truth before any narrative is established and before anything starts to get swept under the rug? Is he granted immunity for this? And how many of the others possibly granted immunity or simply not pursued? I mean, I just don't know what to make of this. So let's continue here. So April 21st, there's another interview, 1999, approximately 5 p.m. This is the Means and Holloway interview. While interviewing Jessica Ann Rush at her home, Jessica stated her boyfriend, Patrick McDuffy, was a member of the Trenchcoat Mafia. Patrick McDuffy was present during Rush's interview. McDuffy sat back and offered no information until investigators prompted him. Patrick McDuffy stated he was in the original Trenchcoat Mafia with Robert Perry, Joe Stair, and Chris Morris. McDuffy stated he recognized one of the shooters as redacted by the description given by Rush. He stated he felt there were 4 or 5 people involved in the shooting. He stated the Trenchcoat Mafia often joked about bombing and shooting up the school, but nothing serious. McDuffy stated Klebold and Harris were both very smart and capable of this destruction. He stated he did not know they were going to bomb the school. McDuffy stated Klebold and Harris did some playful videotaping using mannequins. He stated the movie was like Rambo and it was filmed at their homes and edited at school. McDuffy asked the reporting agent if we had seen the handwritten note from Harris describing their journey. He stated Klebold and Harris had a computer site listing the 10 things they did not like. McDuffy also provided the following nicknames. Chris Morris was Grunt, Dylan Klebold was Vodka, Eric Harris was Reb. You know what's curious? There's a lot of information here that can't be verified, but a lot of it can, and he's giving accurate information regarding Blackjack Pizza, regarding their online nicknames. Is it possible everything he's stating here is true? He stated Kristen Theobald and Rebecca Nelson were also associates of the Trenchcoat Mafia. McDuffy stated Redacted and Redacted were the only two capable of making bombs, and he thought Redacted was most likely the bomb maker. McDuffy stated Dylan Klebold bought a shotgun on his 18th birthday. McDuffy stated that was all he knew about the Trenchcoat Mafia. A follow-up interview with Patrick McDuffie is recommended to clarify his knowledge of the Trenchcoat Mafia, its members, and his location when the shooting occurred. And this is the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. He also stated Chris Morris and Robert Perry would fight a lot amongst themselves, but not with other students. Chuck was identified as Charles Phillips. McDuffie was in chess club with Dylan. Okay. McDuffie thought Redacted and Redacted would be the ones to commit such a violent act. He suspected them until suspect identification was made. So he's clearly stating two other individuals, not Eric or Dylan, were responsible. Even though he stated that they could be. I mean, who could this be? Is he really just talking about Chris Morris and Robert Perry here? McDuffie did not think Harris or Klebold possessed weapons, but stated Charles Phillips and John Beecham may have had weapons. In 96 or 97, McDuffie was in a car with kids from Chatfield High School when they went to a field and detonated 3 pipe bombs under tree stumps. There was a total of 15 kids in 3 cars. Chris Morris and Charles Phillips were the only 2 he knew by name. The Chatfield High School guys had 6-inch pipe bombs made of PVC pipe, which they placed in holes under the stumps. Everyone had a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook, which is downloaded from the internet. Dylan has an ASP baton, which he carried in his car. The ASP was purchased at a security store, Southwest Plaza Mall. Dylan purchased a shotgun on his 18th birthday, either from a Kmart or Walmart. There had been loose talk in the group about someone owning an Uzi. This talk was circulating in late 1997. The group used to discuss guns such as the AK-47 and the MP5. When asked about who in the group could plan the attack, McDuffie provided the following names: 6 redacted names of various lengths. When asked about videos made by the group, McDuffie stated a video was made as a joke against the jocks. There was a dummy made out of pillows dressed in football gear, which was then assaulted by the group. McDuffie was home the day of the shootings and was not able to provide any information concerning the scene. But did he state his girlfriend saw them running with guns? All these individuals, not Eric and Dylan? One of these redacted names is very short. Could be Joe. So April 28th, 1999, McDuffie was asked to explain the statements referenced in Deputy Warren's report. So they're interviewing him again. So McDuffie, on the 20th, was working in Elizabeth, Colorado. He was installing windows for his employer, only known as Kurt. He finished work at 1830 hours, responded to the area of Leawood Elementary to see what was happening with the shooting incident. So is it possible he has a true alibi? Because he didn't get off work until about 6:30? Curious. But before, he stated he was at home. So did they verify his alibi? Report indicated redacted helped with the planning of the attack. McDuffie stated this was speculation on his part, and he only meant redacted possibly had helped. Report indicated Dylan Klebold was at the school, had a gun, baton, knife, built bombs, pipe bombs, cocktail bombs. McDuffy did not see Klebold at the school, but he knew he had a handgun and a baton. He had only heard that Klebold built bombs. Report indicated Redacted was at the school by the library with a gun. I'm assuming this is Joe Stair here. And he has many types of guns. McDuffy stated that he had seen Redacted during the evening. Redacted was wearing a white football jersey with the word Columbine across the chest. This was unusual as Redacted never played football and had not been at the school for 2 years. And we'll get into the other members who hadn't been there for longer. Redacted had talked about having a street sweeper shotgun in 97 to 98. McDuffy indicated it was a shotgun with the barrel sawed off and flattened. Report indicated Redacted helped build bombs and tested them at his house. McDuffy stated he had seen Redacted with small PVC pipe bombs that Redacted detonated in his backyard, destroying trash cans. The statement about Redacted helping build bombs for the attack was speculation. Report indicated Redacted helped build bombs and tested them with Phillips. McDuffy claimed he did not tell the deputy that, and he has no knowledge of Redacted's activities. Report indicated Redacted, last name unknown, was part of the planning, stored the weapons, and transported the weapons to school. McDuffy stated Redacted drives Redacted around and possibly stored weapons in his white Bronco because of the space in the back. He has no knowledge that this actually occurred. So now he's changing to story that it's all speculation, but it seemed like it wasn't. Report indicated Eric Harris had many different types of guns and made the statement, "I will kill jocks and blow up a school." McDuffy stated he only knew about Harris owning a handgun, but Harris liked to own guns because it was his right. Harris did state he wanted to kill jocks and blow up the school, but these statements were made during bowling throughout the year when everyone joked about doing the same thing. Report indicated Redacted was inside the school during the attack, wrote letters, and made violent videos. McDuffy stated Redacted was not observed. The girls in soccer uniforms told McDuffy that Redacted was at the school with a gun. Redacted did not write letters but wrote some poetry. Redacted was on a video team called Rubber Chicken, which made funny videos about various subjects. Report indicated Redacted was part of the planning. McDuffy stated this was speculation. Report indicated Redacted was at the school with an automatic gun downstairs by the door shooting outside. McDuffy stated that he was told by Brenton Hooker that Redacted was in the school by the double doors to the cafeteria. Redacted was identified only by his build as the subject was wearing a mask. The subject, Redacted, was on the east side of the cafeteria and fired at Hooker as Hooker tried to enter the school from the west to rescue his girlfriend, Sarah, last name unknown. McDuffy was told by his girlfriend, Jessie Rush, that the suspect who attempted to enter the science room looked like Redacted, but was also wearing a mask. And apparently they took his computer as well. He used screen names Romeo 23718 and Extreme 290. And they also list his passwords, Pimp for You and IQAZ. Oh man, these guys are characters. So that is the McDuffy situation. What a character. And who knows how much of what he said was true, and we have so many reports of masked shooters. I mean, it's just mind-shocking. Is that why there was so much confusion? Because there were several shooters, and some of them wore masks some of the time, but not all the time? It's weird, though. Why would McDuffy sell all these guys out if he was really involved? So it seems like he must have not been involved and just giving... Was he telling the truth? If he was really at work, and that's all verified, then it would make more sense that he was telling the truth. So let's examine Jessica Rush's statement, that is McDuffy's girlfriend, 2143. So this report dated April 22nd, 1999, 2 days after the shooting. However, the investigation listed here, April 21st, was the actual interview date, and this report written a day after, so this interview was 1 day after the shooting. Okay. Obtained information from Jessica's boyfriend, Patrick McDuffy. She identified one of the gunmen at the Columbine High School as an individual known as Redacted. I'm guessing this is Joe Stair. Jessica Rush provided us with the following information concerning the incident at Columbine High School with what she observed the day of April 20th, 99. Jessica stated she was in the science room for 5th period, and the science room is located on the 2nd level of Columbine High School. 5th period starts 11:15 a.m., ends 12:05 p.m. Jessica stated shortly after class had started, she heard a loud explosion in the school and initially thought it was some type of senior prank. Shortly after the loud explosion, she heard a series of gunfire accompanied by a lot of screaming and yelling from other students from within the school. After determining that there was a problem at the school, the students locked the science room door from the inside. Jessica stated she was huddled with her friend, Jennifer Small, and at one point they observed an individual at the door to the science room, and this party was carrying a large weapon. I asked Jessica to give me the details about the subject she observed near the science room who was carrying the weapon. She stated the individual was about 6 feet tall, skinny, and she described his manner of dress of being all black, telling me that the party had a black baseball cap on that was backwards. She said he had a black face mask, black jeans, and a black trench coat. Jessica said under the baseball cap she could see the individual's hair, described it as being brown in color, curly, and about collar length. So that would be consistent with Klebold if he were wearing a mask, although 6 foot tall. He was 6'3", who knows if he's maybe hunched slightly. She stated she did not know the age of the individual. I asked Jessica if she could identify that person and tell me the individual's name. She told me she could not, but that she had a conversation with her boyfriend, Patrick McDuffy, after the incident. She described the individual that she saw at the science room door and came to the conclusion that it was redacted because McDuffy knew he was associated with the gang known as the Trenchcoat Mafia. So here we have the opposite situation. She's saying his hair is curly and going only to the collar, not straight, long hair way past the shoulders, which would be more consistent with Joe Stair. Okay, asked Jessica if she could tell me how many times she has either seen or spoken with Redacted. She said she had seen him in around school about 3 to 4 times, and it would have been last year. I asked Jessica how she came to the conclusion that the individual she saw at the science room door was Redacted. She stated her boyfriend, McDuffy, is associates with members of the Trenchcoat Mafia. I asked her how close of an association her boyfriend has with this group. She stated she doesn't know, but he knew or knows quite a few of the members of the group. She then reiterated after she described the gunman she observed in Columbine High School that it was Patrick McDuffy that said it sounded like Redacted from the description that she gave. Jessica stated that the individual she observed in all black was carrying the long gun, was unable to get into the science room, and walked away from the door. Jessica stated after the party with the gun disappeared from the window that a teacher known as Mr. Sanders entered into the classroom from an adjoining classroom and that he had been shot in the back area. Jessica stated students then rendered aid to Mr. Sanders. Jessica told me she remained locked in the science room anywhere from 3 to 4 hours before they were removed by SWAT teams. After Jessica provided her initial statements, I then asked her to try and give me a description of the long gun that she saw the suspect carrying. She stated she could not tell me what the gun was as far as the brand or caliber. She just knew it was a long gun. Jessica did say that her friend Jennifer Small told her it was a sawed-off shotgun. Jessica was asked if she knew of any other individuals who belonged to the Trenchcoat Mafia other than the suspects that were initially at the school. She stated the only other person she knows involved in the group is a Joe Stair, and that she relayed the information that after she was taken from Columbine High School that she remembers seeing Stair north of the school near Clement Park at the soccer fields, and that Stair was talking with a law enforcement officer. She described Stair as being in a Columbine Rebels gym shirt and blue jeans, and she described his long blondish hair. Jessica said she saw him as she was being taken to Lakewood Elementary. I asked Jessica if she knew what her boyfriend McDuffy's relationship was with the Trenchcoat Mafia. Again, she told me he knows several members of the group, but she did not know the relationship, and as far as she knows, he is not a member of the group. Okay, so is it not Joe Stair that she saw that was redacted? So it's not Dylan or Joe Stair? Curious, so it's somebody else? Huh. This doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, let's get more mind-shocking. Cindy Barker, 5220. Report date May 27th, 99. Cindy Barker went to Columbine Library and allegedly saw one of the subjects who advised he had graduated from Columbine High School last year and that he was coming back on April 20th, 1999 to initiate the incident. This individual also had a website, rebel.com. Stephanie Bresci was also present with Barker at Columbine Library. Interview Cindy Barker regarding her contact with one of the CHS shooting subjects at the Columbine Library. Barker was interviewed on May 25th, 1999 at her residence in the presence of her mother. Barker told me she has no knowledge of the information contained within the lead sheet. She said Stephanie Bresci, who was also with her at the library following the shooting, might have further. Barker was in 5th hour PE class at the time of the shooting started. She was outside the gym doors in the hallway. She recalls that Mr. DeAngelis directed them into the gym. She recalls seeing smoke in the hall and that students hid in an equipment closet for 10 or 15 minutes. Then they went out the back gym doors and ran into the park. After that, they went to the Columbine Library. No further information. Weird. So there's a lot of these... Wow, so there's a lot of these initial reports, and then when they're followed up on, all of a sudden people forget stuff. Huh. This is a Columbine High School Task Force document. That's so weird. That is so weird. Did someone get to her? Let's look at Bobby Strobel's testimony, 1198. So this is a curious case. So this interview was on April 29th, 9 days later. He provided the following information. On the morning of April 20th, 1999, Bobby Strobel was on his way to a banquet breakfast for his marketing class, but turned around and went home because he felt ill. Later that morning at approximately 11:15 a.m., he drove back to the school and parked in the South Student parking lot when he noticed two students standing halfway between the student lot and the West cafeteria windows. He doesn't recall what they were wearing at this distance, nor was he able to recognize them. He left his car in the parking lot and walked up towards the school front office. Another student was running towards him and told him that someone was in the school with machine guns and bombs. He went back to his car and drove it onto Pierce and continued to Bowles and then to a Gart Brothers store so that he can call his mother. He then drove around near the school area neighborhoods hoping to find his brother. He also stopped at the public library where he noted many Columbine students gathering. When he didn't locate his brother, he drove to his grandmother's house where he found his brother. Bobby never saw Klebold or Harris on Tuesday or Monday. The last time he saw them was at the prom. He noted that Klebold had a date, but that he did not know who the girl was. Klebold and Harris during their junior year were quiet and hung around together. Although he knew who the Trenchcoat Mafia were, he didn't think that Klebold and Harris were members during their junior year. During the past senior year, he noticed that Klebold and Harris would sometimes wear trench coats and hang around with others that he believed were in the Trenchcoat Mafia. He didn't see any other Trenchcoat Mafia members or associates the weekend before April 20th, 1999. Bobby provided the names of students that he believed were either in the Trenchcoat Mafia or were associates of the Trenchcoat Mafia as followed. 1. Joe Stair, graduated in 1998. 2. Chris Morris. 3. Robin Anderson. 4. Brian Sargent. 5. Brooks Brown. 6. Dustin Gordon. When Bobby was at the library earlier that day, he saw Joe Stair at the library. He remembers that plainclothes police officers detained Stair in the library. He stated that Stair seemed to be displaying a bad, flippant attitude, and that when he saw Stair, Stair smiled at him and gave him a thumbs up. Finally, Bobby stated that shortly after the shootings occurred, Redacted was the first person that he suspected to be involved. Curious, is he talking about Joe Stair there? And Joe Stair is number 1 on his list of Trenchcoat Mafia members or associates. Chris Morris is number 2. How well did he know Joe Stair? Why is he randomly giving him a thumbs up? So continuing the post here, psychological profile. According to Ashley Pimley, Joe Stair asked another girl if they were afraid of him. When she said no, he said, "We'll just have to try harder." Will Graber, 5599, says Stair carried a box of swords in his vehicle. He would clean them while on break at Pizza Hut. Matt Riek, 5632, says Stairs was a LARP player involving car combat situations. Frank DeAngelis, 5671, says Stairs and Dutro used to provoke jocks by dancing in front of them, kissing and grabbing each other. Judy Ashlew, counselor, 6073, says Joe Stair is very alternative, painted his nails. Joe Stair is unable to cut ties with Columbine High School and is constantly seen on campus, even though he has been asked not to come onto school grounds since he is no longer a student here. So for all the coincidence theorists out there and everybody insisting that Joe Stair could not have been on campus, he has a track record of continuing to come to campus. I mean, this is weird. It's weird how the coincidence theorists maintain it couldn't have been him. Not necessarily a shooter, but simply that he was there, and he was identified. James Concilio, 6266, says Stairs liked Mortal Kombat video games. Jennifer Perlman, 7007, says Stair was really quiet around people, would wear a jean jacket with a racial slur on it. Unidentified ex-student and athlete on 10,274 document says his whole class was afraid of Stair. We thought he could carry out his threats. His threat was he would just blow up the school because he didn't like anyone there anyway. Eric Dutro, 10,687, says Joe Stair likes to role play, and we'll get into Dutro shortly as well, another Trenchcoat Mafia member. And Pat McDuffy says Stair was the first person to wear a trench coat. Richard Long, teacher. He said Mr. Long said he kicked Joe Stair out of a computer class for accessing satanic sites. This happened last year. He described Joe as weird and evil. Would that be the first way you would describe a student? Weird and evil? Alibi very weak. He says he was at home with his mom. 11:30 a.m. to 12 noon on April 20th. Then he went to Clement Park Public Library to pick up his sister Amanda when he was detained around 1 to 1:15 p.m. Neither his sister nor mother corroborate his story. Not interviewed as far as can be seen from the documents. Like all other suspects, Stair was not pressed on the validity of his alibi. Another post here, Joe's mom knew they made bombs. Joe said Eric and Dylan could have done it alone. I would say that also, wouldn't everyone? But a friend, Christian, said it had to have taken more manpower. It couldn't just have been these two. Christian LaPlante was a friend of the dead gunmen. He knew them well and what their capabilities were. He's convinced the pair had help. We can't be that stupid to think it was just these two kids. Two adults couldn't have done this. It is curious that he admitted that he was into bombs, though. McDuffy said they detonated bombs, all these other people involved in the bombs. So we have clear testimony that there were many Trenchcoat Mafia members that were into bombs and made bombs prior to Eric and Dylan. Now, that doesn't mean Eric and Dylan had help, but it's just curious, and the coincidence theorists will, of course, ignore this. And this LaPlante quote is from a Friday, April 23rd, 1999 article by Extra. Exclusive Trenchcoat Mafia founder Joe Stair, one of the founders of the Trenchcoat Mafia, reacted to the killings at Columbine High for Extra. Investigators are beginning to believe more and more that Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold could not have acted alone. The question now is, who might have helped them? Eyes are turning toward the Trenchcoat Mafia. Today, Extra spoke with one of the founders of the now infamous group who gave us his side of the story. I never expected anything like this. I thought they'd beat somebody up, but I never thought it would be anything like this. Joe Stair still can't believe his friends Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold went on a murderous rampage through Columbine High School, and this Columbine High graduate doesn't buy the conspiracy theories that could help explain how some 30 bombs were planted, and supposedly it's anywhere from 100 to 200 actually, were planted around the rambling high school, saying that Harris and Klebold were very resourceful and capable of doing it on their own. Joe's mom, Lori, says that she was fully aware of the group's interest in bomb making. Extra asked, why did Joe research bombs? We did it out of boredom. We were interested in a lot of things. Cops are interested in finding out how the suspect snuck a bulky bomb weighing close to 30 pounds into the school's kitchen. A bomb made from propane tanks, like on a barbecue, that was fueled speculation that Harrison Klebold couldn't have acted alone. Some students said it might have happened Saturday night. After their prom in Denver, many students went to an after party at the school. When Dylan Klebold showed up decked out in tux and tails, many wondered why the boy who shunned social activities decided to attend. It had to have taken more manpower. It couldn't just have been these two. Christian LaPlante was a friend of the dead gunman. He knew them well and what their capabilities were. He's convinced the pair had help. We can't be that stupid to think it was just these two kids. Two adults couldn't have done this. And isn't it curious how the more people research, the more friends Eric and Dylan seem to have? I mean, we're going on clearly over a dozen friends, some of them very close friends. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Another response here. Please leave Joe alone. He had nothing to do with it. He's a good friend of mine. Blaming him is like blaming Brooks Brown. You just can't. He wasn't close with them like they were with each other. He is not a violent person. He doesn't need his name dragged through the mud. He only knew them through Chris Morris. Chris introduced everyone. He was like the center of the group once Joe left. If you've never had the chance to get to know Joe, you just don't know what kind of person he is, and you are missing out. Not to mention pointing the finger at someone who does help people in many positive ways, so leave him alone. So that was the rundown on all these individuals that cited Joe Stair. Quite distinctly different than Dylan Klebold. Mustache, sideburns, much longer hair, not quite as tall. I mean, a lot of curiosities here. Plenty more to come. We have plenty more other individuals that were affiliated with the Trenchcoat Mafia cited in and around the school the day of April 20th, 1999. We will continue to examine them in the next episode. Hope you guys found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting. If you want to support the channel, you can donate to our PayPal. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. Also, like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.